a lot of that stuff would break if you optimize for number of tokens. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And I
we'll
agree.
have
If
to
you're trying
see.
to satisfy a flat rate pricing business where you want to cater to a bunch of people building emoji games on the weekend and to
Yeah,
people
yeah,
that are professional software developers who are some of the most productive people on the planet, that's really hard. That's like if
yeah.
you're Apple and you want to also, have the $19 Huawei phone.
Welcome to episode 2 of Raising an Agent. This is also week 2 in that we're recording this. There's already so much more to talk about than last week. With me again, Quinn, our CEO. Hi, Quinn.
Hey, Thorsten, how's
And
all the hacking been going?
it's going pretty well. Like I just sent somebody a DM saying it's addicting. I don't know what it is, whether it's this you can give into your distractions or something while this thing is running. But I think the main thing that makes it so addicting is, I don't know how it is for everybody else, but for me, I kind of have to get myself into some state of mind when I work on a feature. And it's this, I heard somebody say this a while back, that senior engineers have to talk themselves into coding some things. And I like to think of it as that little shuffle that the break dancers do before they do the dance. Like you have to get into the move, the
Yeah.
rhythm. And with like the prototype, as we call it, I skip all of this because I just start writing a wish list in the text box and send it off. And
Yeah.
then it does stuff for me. And it feels like there's no barrier to entry because I personally would rather prefer it writing some wrong code that I then go in and fix versus me having a blank page that I have to draw something on. So
Yeah. I know what you
that
mean.
is addicting.
And you know how when you're coding and someone comes in and interrupts you, it fucks your flow. So when you message me and you're like, "Hey, Quinn, do you want to record the podcast?" I was in flow, and we'll
Sorry about
see.
that.
Yeah, no, hey, this it's worth it. But I have like a half typed out prompt, and I'm probably going to be able to pick it up a lot faster than if it was like all these code files and tabs and whatever. But we'll see. You got to wait till the next episode to find out.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's all well and good. Where is it failing for you
Where
right
is
now?
it failing? That's yesterday what I tried. Okay, so sorry, taking a step back. Where is it failing? I think, let me order my thoughts here. It's failing for me at certain things where you need some architectural sense of how the whole thing should work. Like, it's fantastic when you use a Svelte component as we have, where you have a single file where there's the CSS and there's like the TypeScript and there's the, I don't know if it's called JSX or something in Svelte, but the HTML. If it's all one file and you have maybe a few other related components and all of the changes are local and you point it at this and you say, make this look nicer, and you put a screenshot in. And I did this yesterday a bunch of times, and it's addicting because suddenly I can do front end and I only have to put in screenshots with like an arrow that says this looks bad. And but then the other thing I tried was to create a command that would allow you to take the current selection of the editor and put it in the text prompt, in the prompt editor. And as you can imagine, for that you kind of need, the prompt editor is not something that's exposed at a high level. It's an HTML element, I guess, right? You need to be able to talk to the extension from the editor or from the, I don't know, and basically say, what's the current active editor? And then add something to this.
Yeah.
And
It's
so I
like the
described the,
VS Code API, the package.json file, the like WebView API that we have. Yeah, it's so many different layers.
yeah, and I'm not there to guide it. Like, I'm not a big VS Code extension developer yet. So I'm like, how would I do this? So this was exploration and a lot of other things. And I told it to do this, and it went and did stuff. And then I saw in the diff, I saw it, do document query selector stuff to find the editor. I'm like, no, 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 no. That's probably not how you should do it.
Yeah.
So what I did was I then, pulled the eject handle and I said, okay, everything you learned so far, everything that I told you to do, everything you did and you would now do differently, put this in a single markdown file, put this in a task.md file, and name is whatever, debatable. Put all of this in And then it wrote all of it, the information it had, all of the things it learned in the conversation in this, and then it summarized correctly after editing the file. It summarized correctly, and it said, we should probably find a better way to find the active editor. Like we should have a proper API to find out which one is active. And then I said, please also put this in. So then I started a new agent, and I said, somebody else worked on the problem, and they wrote up everything they did in task.md. Please look at task.md and also run git diff main, because I was on a branch, and look at the code they wrote and tell me what you would do differently. And it came back with 7 points, and it said, I would simplify this. I would create an API for this. I would do this. I would do this. I would do that. And at that point, the old version didn't even work. So I was like, yeah, go ahead, implement all of these 7 things. So I basically restarted the whole thing, and the new agent implemented all 7, and now it works. And I haven't checked the code yet, but apparently it's simplified stuff. But that to me was this moment of, okay, you need to have some architectural instinct to kind of guide it. And if you cannot guide it of what's good architecture and whatnot, it's easy for it to go off the rails. So if you know how to make a change, or if you think the change is, say, locally contained or whatever you want to call it, then it's really good. If it's something hairy and you need to invent, say, new APIs or new primitives, then it can get off the rails. And one last thought on this is that yesterday, while looking at it go off the rails, I wondered, is this, that famous curve that we've been seeing where, the junior engineers love AI tooling, super senior, senior engineers love it, but the people in the middle, they're not so enthused about it. And I wondered whether that is because if you're a junior engineer, you're mostly concerned about local changes, like small local changes, and you might not have that gut instinct for architectural changes yet. When you're a senior engineer, you do have that gut instinct for architectural changes, and you kind of know when something starts to smell funny, and you don't really care about the line by line stuff. You're more like, we should probably not do this in this file and do this over here. And I wonder whether if you're, say, an engineer with 3 years experience and you haven't seen a lot of things fail or succeed yet, and you haven't built up that instinct yet, whether then you're in this uncanny valley of, it does stuff, but you don't know why it doesn't work, and you don't know why it's bad, or something like this. And
yeah,
I don't know. That's my thought, to start this.
Yeah. And so where my mind goes is, how do you take the approach that you took, or something else, and have it know that it's failing, and then get it on the right path? And what you did, it worked in that case, but maybe it would be worse in another case. So how do you systematize this?
Yeah.
And that's tough. I mean, it does feel like a lot of the times I've seen it go off the rails, another even like super dumb LLM would have been able to identify it. Like I had a case where it was running writing a v-test test, and it mocked the exact thing that it was testing at the top of the file, and then it tested it, and it was the dumbest thing ever. I was shocked that it was so dumb. That was so obvious to catch. But
yeah,
you still gotta catch that.
Tests, it wrote some tests for me a couple of days ago, and then I said, what code do I have to comment out to test whether the test actually tests, what it's supposed to test? Because that's, I write tests and then I want to see them fail, and only then do I commit them. So it wrote these tests, and I said exactly this, like, what comment should I comment out? What code should I comment out? And it came back with some code. I commented out, and the test didn't fail. And then it was, I got to change the whole testing approach. and it simplified all of the tests. But it took the attention and the nudging to kind of trigger this behavior. And again, like, maybe if this is your first year of coding, you don't think I should test that the tests actually test what they're supposed to test. And you skip over it. But
yeah. And so one thing we've talked about is, when we have these tools like edit file, should we have higher level tools? Like, should edit file actually do what a human would do? Go look at the file, see what diagnostics there are, go and make the edit, make sure there's no new diagnostics added, format it. Should that all be encapsulated in edit file? Or should that be a bunch of other tools that it sometimes calls, sometimes doesn't? Or if we can tell that it's writing a test, and there's an even higher level of us thinking we're smarter than the model, should we have it go and run test coverage, check mutations, have some obvious passes like that? And these are the things we got to answer.
Yeah, I think that stuff, I mean, we can talk about cost in a second, but I think
with costs, I don't know,
Yeah.
man. You know what's expensive as hell? Software developers.
I mean, I so what I wrote down in my notes here is right. It's when you run say Ada or Claude Code or something, they prominently display the cost of a session, right? And basically, the first time I tried Ada over Christmas, and I built like this dumb emoji game, and then it basically sent me a bill and said like, you just spent $15 today to code this useless game, you know. At first, you have the what do you call it, sticker shock, and you see the number and you go, this PR costs $2 or $5 or whatever. But I think every engineer who sees that number then has this other step where they go, yeah, but what's my hourly rate? Like if I calculate how much I am paid for working on a PR for an hour, like it's maybe not that expensive. But yeah, I think that the stalker,
Thorsten,
yeah,
there's a lot of software developers who work at, big groups of people where someone else pays the bills in a
yeah,
corporation.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
telling you, as someone who hires a lot of software engineers, and all of our customers do too, anything that can make them more productive is valuable. And it's this, classic thing like devs who would buy a cup of coffee for $5 who would
yeah,
never pay for something. Devs could be so cheap. Everyone could be so cheap. But yeah,
yeah,
if you put the price so front and center, you're not going to want to
yeah,
do it.
yeah,
Like that's the difference between like an Uber and a taxi. And so I don't know, in the enterprise, you don't need to put that price front and center. And there's a lot of people where there's a big business to be built and someone is willing to pay for that.
yeah. But we're seeing the world is changing, right? Like, I think bold prediction. I think this whole, $10 a month, $20 a month, whatever, this subscription flat rate model, it seems a little bit outdated now when
Yeah.
you have these tools. And I think usage based pricing or some other form of pricing, that's what we're going to see a lot in the future. The big reason for that is we talked about this last week, not on this podcast, but we talked about it. And it was somebody was asking, why does Claude Code feel so different than the other tools? And I would say Claude Code feels like our prototype, and I think our prototype is even better in some regard. But why does it feel different? And somebody else was saying that's because it's not optimized to save costs, to save tokens. And I put this in my notes as the magic of the no token limit, because if you optimize for requests or say a low number of requests or say low number of tokens, you will end up with a completely different product. And if you say let it rip and you take out all of the limits and you give the tools to the model and then you put it in a loop, that's where all the magic comes from. The magic is not like, a lot of the magic is in the tools and a lot of the magic is in how it's integrated. A large part is, instead of, concrete example, the model tries to edit a file and it fails and we send back the error message. Okay, now you got to fix it if we're optimizing for costs and requests, right? But since we're not right now, we just send the error message back up to the model. And guess what? The model then goes, oh, let me try this a different way. And it's this autonomy comes from, or the agentness comes from it having no limits and you not
Yeah.
restricting it to one turn or two turns or something.
Yeah. We even prompt cache everything so the next turn is going to be fast. So I
Yeah.
was worried that'd be slow.
Yeah.
But
But it's actually
yeah.
fast. Yeah. But yeah, I think a lot of that stuff would break if you optimize for number of tokens. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And I
we'll
agree. If
have
you're
to
trying
see.
to satisfy a flat rate pricing business where you want to cater to a bunch of people building emoji games on the weekend and to people that are professional software developers who are some of the most productive people on the planet, that's really hard. That's like if
Yeah.
you're Apple and you want to also have the $19 Huawei phone, something like
Yeah.
that. Do you remember what the name of the environment variable in our prototype is
Yeah,
to enable
it had a
costs?
bunch of curse words in there. Yeah,
Yeah,
to
it's like,
show the price.
yeah, Veet underscore, I'm a fucking idiot who cares more about cost than building something awesome. So show
Yeah,
me, yeah.
yeah, it's something low ambition. Yeah, I think it's that would have killed it from the start. And I mean,
Yeah.
again, I don't know how the world is going to change, but I think if anything, one trend over the last 2 years was that this stuff has become cheaper. Like the token prices have come
Yeah.
down, and I'm not sure we're going to see an end to that. So yeah, I think it's not bad to bank on this.
Yeah, totally.
And again, like one other thing, just on, because I talked with somebody else and they were asking, like, oh, I want to see how you do this. And I think often the answer to, oh, how exactly does this work, is the answer often is just let the model do it. You know, you can tell the model, going back to the thing we talked about in the last recording, checkpoints, restore points. If you want to optimize for cost, you build restore points, right? And because then you don't have to do anything. It's cheap, it's free. But if you don't have to optimize for cost, you can tell the model undo the things that you did, and it does it pretty well. Like its recall of its own actions is pretty good. So that to me is this. Yes, if you want to optimize for low cost, then you have to build a solution to this. But if you don't want to do it, the model can do a lot of stuff on its own.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of reminiscent of, oh, you hire a freelancer. So if you don't have to worry about cost, you can let them do everything. But if you have to worry about cost, it's this, what's the most effective thing this person can do? And don't give them this task because that's a waste of money and time. And
yeah,
don't have to
There's
do
another interesting trade-off that is probably going to be harder for us, which is speed. Because it is sometimes kind of slow, and that's kind of annoying sometimes. I would like it to be faster. I would also like it to be doing more things in the background, more feedback loops, running tests and so on, which in theory is going to make it even slower.
Yeah. Let's talk about this. So this is recent. I think, I don't know, Friday, I don't know, where we started talking about we need to have multiple agents running. And I think that was kind of the theme of the last few days, right? That you added something that you can now have multiple agents running at the same time. And, that's relatively straightforward. It's not as fancy as it might sound like, but it's you have multiple things running at the same time. I think that, again, was a big unlock in how to think about this, right? In that you start to think, okay, how can I behave, I don't know, box them into different parts of the code base? How can I have one agent running on the front end stuff and one agent running on the back end? But I want to hear you talk about it because you built this and you have thoughts on it.
Yeah, well, partly because it was slow, and partly because I wanted the UI to feel more minimal, more about the work that you're doing, not about the tabs and history and all that. Now you just have multiple tabs, and each one is an agent, and you can switch between them. And I found that for exactly the problem that you faced when doing that VS Code across multiple layers change, that I was telling it to, hey, make this change, but you only work in this directory, like web slash or server slash or something like that. And that worked. And again, there's a case where I just relied on the model. You could imagine a UI thing that says, here's a selector of the file paths, and I'm going to scope it and all that, blah, blah, blah. No, I just free natural language. And that was really easy. And that worked. And then given that you have one going here, well, I don't want to do them in serial. So I parallelized them and I had two running. And then the interesting thing is, how might they communicate? Because right now they don't see each other's changes. I mean, if they ask for a tool call, they'll see it. But that is interesting. Another idea is some notion of a supervisor agent, which might be something that is a top level agent by itself. It might be one that's somehow, I don't know. We got to think through all of this.
Yeah.
But it's possible. And it feels like we can kind of prototype some of these primitives, and then we can build first-class features later on top. And that's what comes from this really tight feedback loop with us chatting and building it and using it all the damn time. Using it all the damn time, I just wanted to share a quick screenshot.
Yes, let's do it. I think that's possible here in Riverside.
Yeah. Here we go. This is my Linux machine, but I think it's in the preview.app. And you can see over here on the right all the threads that I had. And I find that as our prototype gets more and more useful, the sidebar width of it, it starts taking up more. And I don't always keep it open. But you can see some of the examples of things I tried it on. And just, how many we're talking about. I don't know how many this is. Like, maybe 35 or 40.
35, yeah. That's
all just in the last 24 hours.
Yeah. I mean, I think mine looks similar. I think I also bumped into one thing that you mentioned. I had the same thought yesterday, and then I basically woke up and I read your message saying the same thing. And that is, And again, I'm not stealing your credit with all of this, but
I don't care about credit.
no, I know, but it's just uncanny how often this happens
Yeah.
where we come up with this or bump into the same thing. And the thing is, yesterday I had to then work on this command thing, and it took a while, right? And it ran builds, and it just keeps going. And while it was doing this, I noticed, I think, one or two other bugs. I knew, for example, you know how when you mention a file in the text, we auto add it to the context. And I noticed that in the UI, we don't, like, it's not unique. Like, we show the same file name twice, even though it's only attached once. And while it was working, I thought, oh, I could start another agent to fix this. Like, it can one-shot this. But then I bumped into the problem of, oh, the other thing is currently modifying the file system, and it's going to run into build errors and whatnot. So what I want is something like Git work tree, so I can have a different checkout.
Yeah.
And the thing should work over here and run the tools on its own. And then you start to think, what are we doing here? Like, this is crazy, because it's suddenly, you want to have long-running tasks on the same code base. You want to have multiple workspaces. You want to run the same tools at the same time. And I don't know. It's mind blowing. Like, it's this. We're entering a different stage in some sense, and you can say, the skeptics, they will say, yeah, but it goes off the rail, or does the wrong thing, or does this other thing, and blah blah blah. Again, like last week, somebody sent me an email and they said, hey, on your website, this you still says you're employed at Z, but you're back at Sourcegraph. Please change this. And I basically took that email this person sent me and gave it to the agent, say, fix this on my website, and didn't mention any files, and it did it, and it changed it correctly. And then I sent it back to this person, and this person was not impressed. They were saying, you could have done this in 5 seconds, or you could have done this faster. But my point with this anecdote is just take a step back and look at where we are, man. Like,
next time someone does that, what you should do is have one of your kids do it.
Maybe.
And then videotape them. And when they say, oh, you could have done it, then send them that video.
Yeah. But that's the point, right? It's just take a step back and look at where we are. Like, you know how often people call up their agency today, their marketing agency, and say, can you change this on our website? And then somebody goes and does it, and there's like all of this overhead. We're this close to being able to send an email to an agent that opens a PR and then sends you a screenshot and says, is this okay? And if you say, yes, it's okay, in these words, it will go and merge the PR. And now we're talking about, I have a thing running on my machine, and it takes 20 minutes to fix a PR that another machine created. And now I want another machine to run, so I need a different workspace. Like, this is insane. If you take a step, like, where are we? Like, I don't know. It's mind blowing.
It's mind blowing.
And what I keep saying is, you need to see the trajectory. Like, this is not, don't look at the snapshot. Don't look at the current state. See this as the start of a trajectory, or whatever, the middle of the trajectory. And maybe, yes, this will maybe plateau, but look, man, I can build you an email to website changes bot. Like, I can do this today, and it would take me a day maybe to build this. And then you can change your WordPress page via email or via WhatsApp. You can even send annotated screenshots and do a circle around stuff and say, fix this, and it will do it. And that's wild.
There seems to be some people, some personality types who are able to exploit that and get a ton of value from it. And then others who just don't. And I don't know what it is. I do know of some people who were very against it and very skeptical, and now they've come around. But like, even if you made an email bot, you can make it and it would be really good in the hands of a lot of people, but it'd be very far from perfect. And if you put me in a room with someone who didn't like it, and I tried to explain, oh, well, if it said that in this case, and here's what you could have done, and I think a lot of people would know to do that anyway, like, it would actually be hard for me to explain those things.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, I'm really trying, but I think I can have a little bit of empathy for those people. And I don't know what it is about their personality or approach to things.
Yeah, I don't understand it anymore either. It's, at one point, I think I understood it, because you think about, oh yeah, it might not be efficient yet, it might not do this. But for me, like, if you would have told me, like, when I was a teenager, I remember thinking about, oh, if we would have a tool to do this, and then I can SSH into a server, and then it could do, and it would, all of the pieces in these dreams of what one day we could do, were all this, once we figure out this part, and once this, gets easier to parse language and stuff like this. And now we have this universal thing that you can plug in and basically can build a thing that you call via voice message and say, can you check how many processes they're running on my machine, on my Linux machine? And it will do it. And that to me is magical. And I don't know how people cannot see the implications of that. Maybe it's, as people say, it's somebody said yesterday, the quote of, if your job is dependent on you not understanding something, then you will not understand it. And maybe they're scared of, it will make software engineers obsolete. But I think
the
there's
problem
a
is
few
their
people.
job is dependent on them understanding how to use these things. So if that's what they're thinking, they've got
Exactly.
it wrong.
Yes.
I
And I
really
think
these people genuinely do not know how to use these things, or they have not used these things. But when I say they don't know how to use these things, that's tough because it feels like a blame the users thing. And I get it. It's hard. These are nuanced, but there's just some people where if it doesn't work, then they try something else and they've evolved to figure out this intuition for how to get it right. And they actually view that as fun. And other people don't see that as fun.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think everybody needs to really try to steelman this and find their own moment where they get a glimpse of, what it's capable of. I tried it a bunch over the last 2 years and it hasn't happened. And it took me basically in the last 3 months building, our autocomplete and working with models and then using Cursor and agents and Claude and whatnot. It took me a lot of head against the wall to break through it. And then you start to see that then everything else looks like a black and white movie, and then it feels hard to explain to people what you saw. But I think everybody needs to do this on their own. But I would urge everybody to don't treat this as like the oracle of code coming on earth and now helping you write code. Treat this as tools that you have to kind of use a correct way or a certain way, and then you will see something that will make you understand, okay, if this gets fixed better, this will change a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But
the reality is right now, for anyone to get in that kind of loop, they got to go. I mean, this prototype, it's not even available to them yet. There's Claude Code, which is pretty damn good. Okay, they get Claude Code, and they got to make sure it works on their repo, that it can run tests. They got to get some MCPs, like the Puppeteer one is really valuable. They got to do all this setup. It's like, it is a big learning curve right now. Yes. So one of the things I'm really excited about is we can make it so that it works in the editor that you have, and it is set up in your code base because someone else at your company already did that. This is not like, V0, but someone else has already set it up. So it's got all the right feedback loops with tests and browser and visual and all that stuff. It's going to work so much better than if it didn't have those things. And ultimately, I do believe that even these people who don't see it when it doesn't work and other people are talking about it, when it actually works in front of their own damn eyes, I think that is going to win them over. And every single day, probably 10, 50,000 people out there are won over. So it's going pretty damn fast. Yeah. And I hope we can accelerate it.
I agree. I think what we need to end with this picture, I think the goal is not that we end up with a tool where everybody has to train their own intern, in large companies, but it's this, like the company trains the intern, the AI intern, and then everybody gets a clone of that intern. But the intern knows how to navigate the code base and how to do stuff. So that would be a big help, I think, in large companies.
And then a code review agent is a safety net on the other end. So that,
there you go.
Yeah. Boom.
Yeah. All right. I think we're at time. Let's wrap this up and let's get back to coding.
Happy hacking.
Bye-bye.
Bye.